It's Zach Eady with Purdue men's basketball, and you're watching Boilers in the Stands.
Welcome back to Boilers in the Stands. I'm your host, Joe Jackson. It's my co-host, as always, Kraig Bowers. Back to talk some Purdue basketball hoops. We are 3 weeks away from the start of college basketball season, 3 weeks and a day at the time of the recording from Purdue tipping off their first game of the season. Exhibitions in 10, 11 days, something like 11 days, something like that next Friday. So hoops are finally going to be back. We're going to be able to actually watch the games, not just kind of speculate and talk, but really start to be able to dive into all of that. Very excited for all of that. But today we're just going to be kind of talking through the schedule. I know it got released. Actually, I don't know what day it got released, but we're just going to kind of walk through some of the games that really stand out to us going into this season. Obviously, this exercise is done on mid-October. I think last year, right? When we did this, we probably mentioned Rutgers in some capacity. Things happen during the season, right? And they don't end up how we think, but it's still fun and exercise to do kind of right now, just to talk, basically give us an excuse to talk Purdue basketball. So got a little bit of news roundup first before we really dive into some of that. Kraig, I'll kind of throw it to you. One, to talk through some of that stuff, but two, how's it going? How's your off season been?
It's been hectic. It's been a hectic start to the school year. I say start, we're almost 8 weeks into the school year already, but it's just kind of been the way it's gone. You and I have both been real busy. I know we've had some people clamoring for us to get back on the mic, Joe. They want to talk Purdue basketball, and sorry that we've both been away, but Joe had a massive Big Ten basketball preview that he's been working on. Finally got to take some time off for himself. One of the hardest working guys in college basketball, covering it and bringing items to you. Joe, tell the people a little bit about your Big Ten guide. I bought it. It's the first day that it came out. I was sitting with Casey Bartley later that night. He bought it. We were looking through it. It is complete. And if you want to know anything about anybody in the Big Ten that Purdue is going to play, it is well worth the $10.
Yeah, I do really appreciate that. So you can find the link on my Twitter at Joe Jackson CBB. It should be, I'm going to double check as I'm talking, but it should be the pinned tweets. In my opinion, I feel pretty confident saying it's the most in-depth Big Ten preview that you will find anywhere. It is breakdowns of all 18 teams, which includes kind of a roster overview, but also schematic offensive and defensive breakdowns for all 18 teams, and also individualized breakdowns for all 272 Big Ten players. So if you have a question about any sort of incoming freshman, incoming transfer, somebody returning, like, I have an individualized breakdown on every single player. I honestly think even if you only care about a team or two in the Big Ten, I do think it's worth it just because of how in-depth stats, analysis, all of that. So Kraig, do appreciate you kind of giving me this opportunity to shout it out. But yeah, that's on my Twitter at Joe Jackson CBB, Big Ten basketball preview. Yeah, like I said, I'm very proud of what I was able to put out this year. We'll see if I put out that magnitude going forward. I was kind of dumb and just didn't realize how big it would be when I went into it, but still very proud of kind of what I was able to put out. So like I said, yeah, I honestly think it's even relevant early in the season. It is something that you can kind of glance on, especially as we start getting closer to Big Ten play of like, okay, who's who, things like that. But yeah, appreciate you letting me shout out. Appreciate you buying it and supporting, and anybody else out there in the chat that has.
Yeah, sorry. I tried to post the link in the comments for anybody that doesn't have X, so that they could get to it, but the web address was longer than it would allow me to post in a single comment. So long story short, if you just go to feed the post, you'll be able to find the link to it there as well. So Google feed the post, you'll be able to get to Joe's site, you'll be able to buy it, and you'll be able to read up on every Big Ten team that this Purdue basketball team is going to face. But hey, we got some other big news today. And while it doesn't seem like I wasn't really even watching for it because, and this seems ridiculous to me now, because I remember, whatever year it was where Purdue finally hits number one a few years ago during that season. And it felt like a huge deal. And everybody was waiting for that poll to come out. They knew it was going to come. Everybody was excited to see Purdue ranked number one. And today it's like, oh yeah, we were ranked number one again. Cool. all right, when's the game start? You know what I mean? But AP poll comes out today. Purdue is officially ranked number 1 in the preseason poll. This is the first time in the history of Purdue's basketball program that they've been ranked number 1 in the preseason rankings. Ken Palm came out yesterday or maybe the day before and had Purdue at number 3. I guess, Joe, just any reactions to either of those things dropping? I know you despise the AP poll, but nonetheless, it means stuff to recruiting. It means stuff just to kind of how the program is viewed by others.
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing with AP polls, I don't think it's actually indicative of how good a team is or not, just based on how it's set up. And it's not even a dig on the people who vote. Like, most of them cover a specific team. You just aren't going to be able to act like if you cover a team that in depth, it's hard to cover, actually stay in tune with everything going on. But I mean, yeah, like, it's still obviously a cool feat to have. Honestly, was shocked that they were number 1. I figured it would be Houston by a decent margin. Right. Like, I don't, obviously, to me, it doesn't change anything about how I feel about this Purdue team. To me, they're very clearly kind of a top 3 team. Ken Palm has them 3, very close behind Florida and number 2. Like, everything is pointing to them being one of the elite teams, and that very much checks out to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a cool thing for the fans. It's a cool thing for people around the program. But like you said, it means very little, right, in terms of the season and what's got to happen. They still got to go out and they still got to win those games. But exciting news today, obviously, to see upcoming. You talked about the beginning of the regular season. And obviously, we've got the big exhibition game against Kentucky in 11 days, October 24th. So that's really exciting. But we've got something between now and then, Purdue basketball related as well. On October 18th, they are going to have the Purdue Fan Day. Again, I know many of our listeners like to go to that. We try to go to it every year and watch it as well. That's going to start at 10 a.m. with the women's practice and scrimmage. 11:45, they do the autograph session line. If you are trying to get TKR or Braden's autographs, you'd probably just be best to line up as soon as you get let in the doors at 9 a.m. They're already planning for long lines and have moved those 2 to the John 9 Purdue room in Mackey just to try to allow for a little bit more space. And then at 1 o'clock, the men's team will practice and they will scrimmage. I'm going to be tired, Joe. I'm going to be sweaty. I'm running the Purdue Boilermaker 5K that morning. Then I'm going to try to rush home, take a shower, and get back so I can get back into Mackey to catch everything. Are you coming up for it? Are you going to be able to come and watch?
I am planning on it. Yeah, I should be there.
Okay. And it should be exciting. That for you, that'll be the first time seeing this team live. Obviously, you've seen some clips. You've heard me talk about practice, but you still haven't seen them live this year. And it gives you a good window, at least what they look like going against each other. So I think it's always an exciting day. I mentioned the Kentucky game coming up on October 24th at 6 p.m. That's a Friday night. Will be televised on SEC Network. If you want tickets, guys, everybody's been talking about, the ticket prices are so incredibly high. Those were just tickets that season ticket holders had claimed and then put on the third-party market that you guys were seeing available. General public sales for those tickets go on sale tomorrow at 5 p.m. on Ticketmaster. If you want to go to Rupp Arena, I know Greg and I both applied for media credentials. We are pumped about the thought of getting to watch Purdue in Rupp, even if it's an exhibition game. Be ready at 5 o'clock or earlier. If I don't know if there's waiting rooms like there are for some concerts, but whatever it may be ready if you want tickets. They are going to go fast.
Yeah, I mean, should be a fun environment, should be a fun time. I'm excited for Purdue, based on their track record, right? We'll probably lose this, and then Purdue will have a great season, and that's just kind of how these things go, right?
Yeah, and I think I saw Rothstein put out a tweet. Pretty sure it was him just a few days ago that was like a reminder. Coaches do not play their normal rotations in scrimmages. Coaches may not run the normal plays that they would lean on in scrimmages, like exhibition games, scrimmages, whatever. Don't overreact to anything. And I think you're going to see some guys get some run because there are going to be some decisions that have to be made on this team in terms of are a couple of people redshirting or not redshirting. And this is going to be one of two chances to see what they look like out there against everybody else away from practice, actually playing against other competition. So I did get to go to a practice since the last time that we have talked, Joe. I don't know if you saw the thoughts that I put out, but basically it was like, I still don't know anything. When we talk about the guard room, really the conversation has been around who's going to be the fifth starter and then who's going to be the backup four. We already know what everybody else looks like, what they bring. All the guys that looked really good last year that are Purdue stars continue to look extremely good in practice. The only thing I came away with was I have no idea between those guards who's going to win out in terms of the overall minutes and play more minutes, regardless of who's starting and who's not starting. Antoine West looked really, really good. I was leaning, I think, like a lot of people, that he may redshirt. And then you watch him in practice, and there's a couple plays where Painter just turns around and looks at his assistants and is like, "You see that? Did you see that?" You know what I mean? And you really wonder, because to me, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Joe, but to me, there's some things potentially that he may have just the physical characteristics and ability to do that make him unique. And the fact that he's listed at 6'3", but to me, he looks bigger than the other guards listed at 6'3" on this team. But you add in his freakish wingspan, and what he may be able to do defensively against bigger guards on the perimeter, and then his ability to get in the paint. And I don't know if you saw the video they released of the scrimmage that they had last week, but it, like, 2 or 3 of his highlights were getting into the paint, shooting that little teardrop, making a nice pass after he got 2 feet in the paint. He's got the ability to handle the ball with his size and athleticism and make some plays in a way that maybe some of the other 2-3 guards maybe don't do. Do you see, like, am I right on those things in terms of some things that may be unique, specific to West in that guard room?
Yeah, I think just his pure length is like, I mean, Foreman put out a tweet a while ago. I forget what Jakari's wingspan was, but like West had like a +6 wingspan or something, just something stupid like that, where this is going to be a smaller backcourt. There's Jack Benner is really the only true wing, I would say, on this roster. Maybe you could throw Lawyer in that mix. Neither of those guys are massive by any means. This is a smaller backcourt, and if you can get it, if you can kind of make up for some of it with a guy like West, where at times he might have to guard bigger threes, just kind of because of his size, and I'm blanking on literally any bigger three, like Andrei Stojakovic for Illinois. There we go. Like somebody like that, like he has that kind of upside. The shot's got to be there, right? We saw with Jakari last year. The shot wasn't there early. He gets benched for CJ. CJ is knocking down threes, and then Jakari starts making them towards the end of the season. They're both playable. Like, it's I was texting somebody about just kind of like who maybe will start at the 2 for Purdue, and he was just like, first world problem. Like, it's right. Whoever it is, it's just like, yeah, I trust them. They really out of all 4, with West being the most hesitant just because he's a freshman, but like any one of the 4 could start, and I wouldn't be like shocked at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when I put out my Twitter thread about it, it was basically saying the same thing. Like, I don't have any idea who starts at the 2, and also I don't care. Like, whatever the option is going to be a good option. And there's a really good chance whoever starts at the 2 is going to be relatively level in total minutes with some of the backups anyway. So, like, I don't know that it really matters all that much. West, I was talking with somebody who's, seen some of the practices, and they mentioned, like, if West was needed to and doesn't redshirt, he could play a lot of really positive minutes this year. But also, he might still redshirt just because of the depth that's in this guard room. So I'm going to be, in the next 2 weeks, that's probably the thing that I'm going to be most interested in is what his decision is at the end of the day. So I don't know. Yeah. It'll be exciting.
With kind of my Big Ten preview and all that, as I watched film on everybody, it's not a scientific formula by any means, but just did like a rough generalized ranking of all the players just based on different characteristics, and had an overall score for everybody. And I rated West coming into the season as like a 7th man caliber type player. And that might even be a bit low. That's kind of just based on the film and stuff that I watched. Like, that's where I had him. And like you said, he could start, he could redshirt. There's like if CJ and Jakari are taking the jumps that we expect them to, and Meyer eventually kind of gets to where we think he could get, it's just tough to find minutes for him. But at the same time, if you're good enough, like Painter will play you.
Right on, right on. There are some people in the chat saying Liam Murphy is a wing.
He's a forward to me. Like we're being nitpicky. Okay. I don't think there's ever a lineup where he could play the 3, in my opinion. Yeah, I would call him more of a forward, but it's more semantics than anything.
All right. Joe has spoken. Let's get into the schedule a little bit, and I did piece this together. I thought this was going to be really easy. I told ChatGPT to build me a schedule, an image, a Purdue schedule, and it messed up one date 3 times in a row. And then I didn't have the paid subscription level to fix it a 4th time. I was so mad, man. But anyway, I built this out on my own. Let's just kind of run through the schedule, maybe in thirds of the season, and talk maybe a little bit about a game or two. And then I've got some questions about maybe potential losses, maybe the games we're most looking forward to see this year. So obviously we have the 2 exhibition games against Kentucky and UIndy. The Kentucky exhibition game is probably the most excited I think people have been for a Purdue exhibition game in a long time, and for good reason. Then they finally get into the regular season. They start off with some teams like Evansville and Oakland. November 13th, Alabama is a big one. That's a return trip to Alabama after Alabama came to see us, so that will be an away game. Then we get Akron at home, head to the Bahamas, where we will definitely face Memphis in a neutral situation to kick that tournament off, and then either Texas Tech or Wake Forest. Back home for Eastern Illinois, and then we catch 2 Big Ten games right at the beginning of the December. Rutgers away and Iowa State at home. Joe, I'll just throw it to you off of that initial list of games. What jumps out to you in that set?
I mean, yeah, it's another Painter non-con schedule of just tough quality opponents. At Alabama is going to be fun. I know Bama's down probably a little bit compared to previous years. Still should be kind of this top 20 probably team. KenPom has them 23. I don't know what Torvik has them, but I'll effort that while I talk. Right, Iowa State is going to be fun. Memphis should be solid, but I'm really more excited to potentially play Texas Tech, which could be a really fun game. Just that first third, I think we're gonna I don't want to say find out a lot about this team, because I think we in general have a good feel for what this team is. Right, this team returns a ton. We know kind of what their core is, but like, we're going to find out more about kind of the edges of like, all right, how good is Clough and Jacobson? Like, are they going to kind of cover all the holes defensively? How we talk up, Purdue potentially having these 4 combo guard type players. Who's really emerging in that group? Who's the one that's, when it comes down to it, is really the one getting the minutes to closing close games? And Purdue should get a couple of those pretty early on. I'm sure at Rutgers is going to scare everybody. Like, Rutgers shouldn't be that good this year, but I don't know if anybody will be confident. I did a kind of Big Ten preview podcast earlier this morning with Hoops, Dylan Burkhart, and just kind of mentioned that there. I was like, if you go ask any Purdue fan, I bet they're not going to say that Purdue is going to lose to Rutgers, but I bet there's going to be some level of just kind of like, why did Purdue have to draw at Rutgers as their first Big Ten game? Probably more PTSD than anything, but really fun early start of the season. I mean, didn't even mention like Marquette and Auburn, like even Akron and like Oakland. Akron, especially, like their top 100 KenPom to start the season. That's a game they should, win comfortably, but it's not a 350 level KenPom team. Oakland's fun because of the zone. So I think there's just going to be a lot of fun games, find out a lot about kind of what does the true rotation look like, especially towards the end of December, and kind of work from there.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting listening to Painter in an interview talking about playing Oakland, about playing Akron, that type of team, and saying, you have to try to schedule some of the better mid and low major teams when you play them, because that's who you play in the first round. And Purdue's been beat by some of those teams in their history over the last 10 years. And those games matter as well. Just making sure that you can take care of those type of teams, that you're confident in playing those types of teams, especially when they have something, I don't want to say gimmicky, but something that's kind of unique, like what Oakland does. The Texas Tech game for me, it's star-studded power to me. You have JT Toppin, you have Christian Anderson, who looks so good over the summer. We'll talk more about that game later on because I think it's going to come up on a couple of our lists, but I'm really excited for that one. Bama, like you said, I was scared to death of Phylon last year as a freshman, and I thought he did some damage to us, and now he's going in his sophomore year. And will Purdue be able to contain him? That's a matchup to me. I don't know if it's really a size thing, but that's a matchup to me that I think it's going to need better perimeter defenders on him, or an achieved level of becoming better from last year to this year to try to contain him. I don't think we hadn't gotten to the Auburn part of the schedule yet, Joe. That's why we hadn't mentioned it or marked. So I was going through it in thirds. Yeah, I was going through it in thirds. Iowa State, I should mention Iowa State. Iowa State, I'm an ag guy. Iowa State is a huge ag school. I have tons of friends that are Iowa State fans. So that home and home is going to be really fun for me just because of the connections of the people I know. Iowa State and Purdue are two very similar schools just in terms of universities as well in many, many ways. Then we hit the middle third of the season. We get December 10th, Minnesota at home. And then we get Marquette at home December 13th. I feel like this is like the fifth time in 7 years that we've played Marquette in some way, shape, or form. But we get them yet again. But I always love hearing from Shaka Smart. So I'll be excited for that post-game interview. December 20th against Auburn on a neutral court where Purdue will look to avenge, quite frankly, probably their most embarrassing, I don't want to say embarrassing, but their biggest beatdown that they've had in recent years. December 29th at Kent State over Christmas break at home. And then we kick off the Big Ten in earnest. And January 3rd at Wisconsin away, a game that is always difficult for Purdue when they go into the Kohl Center. I think similar to that Rutgers vibe, Wisconsin just always has been tough when we play them in the Kohl Center. And we get Washington at home on January 7th, Penn State at home January 10th, Iowa at home January 14th. So a nice 3-game home stretch. We head out to the West Coast January 17th to take on USC away and then grab UCLA. So Purdue will be playing at UCLA for the first time since they've joined the Big Ten. And then after that West Coast trip, a travel day, coming back, getting in 1 day of practice, the morning walkthrough, they take on Illinois at home. And just keep that in mind as we look at the schedule and think about things relative to how that first game back from that West Coast trip happened last year. If you're trying to do the math on that, if they don't travel home till the next day, that's a travel day, then they're required to take a day off before they go back to practice. They'd get that 1 day of practice, and then the next day is the game. Anything that jumps out? I know you've already mentioned Auburn and Marquette briefly in the previous section, but anything that jumps out there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Auburn, Marquette. I looked it up. This is the 4th year in a row that Purdue will be playing Marquette. Auburn isn't going to be what they were last year. Still should be a quality game, I think. Especially that one's the one in Gainbridge. So that one's always fun, just kind of being in Indy. The only other thing that stood out, and this is nitpicking, but let me bring it back up. I don't love that they have their 3-game homestand to start January. Nitpicking, whatever. I would prefer to see that later. I guess they have one later in February too. So I'll take that back. But still, just kind of was like, oh, you come off of winter break and then you're just pretty much at home to start. Nitpicking, but whatever. The Illinois game should be fun. Actually, and at UCLA, that stretch right there at USC, at UCLA, Illinois, 2-1 in that 3-game stretch is good. Truthfully, that's 2-1 in that stretch is good.
Yeah, I just was pulling up because I'm like, I have no idea how good Marquette's supposed to be this year. They didn't get a single vote in the top 25. Are they down that bad?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more of a rebuilding year. They lost. I mean, who'd they lose from that? They lost Cam Jones. I think Joplin they lost. Stevie Mitchell. I think it's more of this could be one of those years where it's just like, oh, like what was it? What was it? 2-3 years ago? It was Braden's freshman year, maybe, that Marquette was supposed to be down, and then they came in, and it was a really good game. Maybe this is, just one of those teams again where it's like, don't really know who's the guy yet, so they're just lower.
Yeah, and if we know anything about Shaka smart teams, they're going to play tough, and it's going to be a tough game, whether they are good or not. I'm with you. I think that 3-game stretch where they go out west, take on a UCLA team that's ranked 12th in the country. USC's getting votes in the poll. If you look at USC on KenPom values them much higher than they are in the AP voting as far as that goes. And then come back and take on an Illinois team that I think is, in my mind, Illinois is like the biggest wild card team in the Big Ten. Could be really, really good. I feel like I've said this 2 or 3 years in the last 5 about Underwood teams of like, I think they're going to be good. Like, I think they have a chance to be really good, but also like, I don't know. I don't know how everything's going to fit together with everybody that they brought in. But catching them off of that, not getting much practice time. That Wisconsin game to me just, right, you have Christmas break. They grab Kent State, I think, on the 29th. But then they got to ramp back up right away, playing away in the Kohl Center against a Wisconsin team that is ranked 24th. I still think that's just a little bit low in terms of where I have them and their place in the Big Ten. But that game to me is going to be really interesting as well on the 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, I've Wisconsin 16, it looks like, and kind of my abbreviated rankings is what I'll call it, because it's not an exact 1 through 25. Don't have the students there. Like, obviously some will be there, but it is a break game, so you kind of get that kind of break with Purdue going there. Then it is an interesting matchup where like Wisconsin's going to also be 3 guards, but they'll be able to play more 5 out, assuming Rapp hits. Their transfer power forward from Portland. I don't know. That could be a really fun game because it's like Wisconsin has some pieces to poke at Purdue, but at the same time, I don't know if they have the defense to hold up against Purdue. So, but on the road, you want to start out the 18-game Big Ten slate with a win, and it's not the easiest game by any means.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. So let's look at the next third, the final third of the season. We've got, I wanted to show. There we go. Final third of the season. We take on Indiana at Indiana on January 27th. Then we go away to Maryland February 1st. Get Oregon on February 7th at home. A team that I think a lot of people are probably undervaluing given who they bring back. Nebraska away on the 10th. Iowa away on the 14th against a brand new look Iowa team with a brand new point guard, brand new coach. Then we get Michigan at home on February 17th, Indiana at home February 20th, Michigan State at home February 26th. Just a beautiful 3-game stand in terms of 3 teams that, might be able to give Purdue some trouble, should be up towards the top of the Big Ten, or I should say 2 of those 3 teams anyway. March 1st at Ohio State away, March 4th away at Northwestern, and then we finish up with Wisconsin at home. Wisconsin being one of, I think, 3 teams that we have a home and home with in the Big Ten. So, Joe, to wrap up the last third of the season, quick thoughts there.
First thought, it is absolutely disgusting that Purdue at Indiana is on a Tuesday night at 9:00 on Peacock. Like, disgusting. That should never happen, ever. Because Peacock has 2 games that day, and I'm not even that mad about the Peacock thing. That is what it is. But they have Nebraska at Michigan at 7. Like, those 2 should be flipped. Purdue at Indiana should never tip off at 9:00 on a Tuesday night. Regardless, I kind of was. That was honestly the first time I really got to look at the home away splits, like really kind of stare at it. And it's like Purdue I like the breaks Purdue kind of got. You get Michigan at home. Even if you're down a little bit on MSU, like getting them at home is much better than getting them on the road. And the away games at Ohio State, at Northwestern, at Nebraska, at Iowa, Maryland, like they're not like the easiest games by any means, but they're not. There could be, you could get at Michigan State, like in that stretch, at Oregon instead. Like, I kind of just like how the home away broke down.
Yeah, I I think this schedule, like the first time I saw it released, before even necessarily having the dates and times, just who they were going to get home, who they were going to get away, I thought it was a schedule that was very beneficial to Purdue accomplishing their goals of winning another Big Ten title. And then you look at the order that you get those, and really to me that USC, UCLA, Illinois stretch is the only stretch where I'm like, man, that's the way it's scheduled in terms of who they play, where they play them, and the days that they play them that I think makes things more difficult than they'd have to be. I will say, like, Purdue has struggled at times with Ohio State in the last few years, and you're going to go through that stretch of Michigan, Indiana, Michigan State. Although all of those are at home, those are all going to be high-intensity games. Indiana will be, no matter how good or how bad Indiana is, because it's a rivalry game, just the way it's going to be, right? And you get through that gauntlet of those three, and then you go to Ohio State with a team that a lot of people are kind of bullish on this team being like a 6th, 7th, 8th team in the Big Ten this year. To me, that might be a little bit of a trap game in this schedule as we approach the very end of the season. I don't know. I don't know how high you are on Ohio State, but like they got Thornton. They still got some people. You're not high on Ohio State like everybody else, or not everybody else,
No.
but some people.
No, I'm
not buying in this year because I'm not buying in this year because I've bought in the last 2 years and got burnt both times. So I'm sticking with my guns that I'm not buying in on them this year.
Now, like you said, though, they have Thornton, like they have Royal. Like it's not like they're a bottom tier Big Ten team. I'm very concerned about what their defense looks like in totality. But yeah, I mean, like Purdue has struggled with Ohio State. You do have to go on the road right after, and potentially some kind of three emotional game, like high energy, high emotion games. Not the like it's a game you got if you're a national title contender like they are. It's a game you should go out and win, but at the same time, you got to still be able to go do it. Also, was kind of looking back through. This is looking more in kind of a whole, but I'm gonna bring up the schedule to show everybody. But like, so you get that 3-game homestand in January, from the 7th, 10th, and the 14th, and then the 6 of the next 8 are away. Starting with a USC UCLA road trip, getting Illinois at home, and then it's at IU, at Maryland, Oregon at home, and then at Nebraska, at Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get the 3-game home stretch kind of sandwiched, around the lot of away games. So like that's good and bad. You get more home games kind of in a row, but also that stretch you got to be able to go pick up some road wins. They're going to lose probably 1 or 2 in that area, but like you got to be able to take care of business on the road too.
Yeah, you do. And Purdue is going to have to do it during that stretch. Like you said, though, if you are the best team in the country or one of the best 2 or 3, you should be able to handle that business. Let's get into some things here. Just your thoughts on the whole schedule. If you had to pick 5 games from this schedule and say, here are some potential losses. Here are some teams that I think could give Purdue trouble, or you think it's just the timing, where the game sits, all the travel, whatever. What are the 5 games that you really think jump out to you as being ones that could potentially create a loss for Purdue?
Yeah, I think for me, it's starting at UCLA. That, like, if I was to pick the single toughest game, it's probably going to be that one to me, just on the road at UCLA. Now, like, I don't know if it's better or worse that they'll have already been in LA for a period of time. I think there's probably an argument both ways for that. I buy into UCLA being roughly that top 10 team. I think they're going to have some stuff that can make things difficult, be a 5-out offense with an elite driver. Can kind of put some pressure on Purdue, I think, that way. So that's kind of where I start. We had the top 5 showing up, and honestly, my thoughts probably have switched a bit since then. But Texas Tech, if that game does happen, would be number 2. I'm bought in on Texas Tech being a good team. Toppin versus TKR should be a ton of fun if it does happen. So that's where I would go 2. As you can see here, Michigan is where I would go 3, and I feel pretty good with that. Like, Michigan kind of goes the other way of, like, they're going to also play 2 bigs, but Yaxel is just such a unique player at the 4. Like, he can give them issues. I think there's a scenario that game features the best offense against like the second best defense in the country. There's that kind of that potential, and that should be fun. 4, I have Bama, especially with it being a true road game. Bama is going to have athleticism. They're going to have size. Like, being on the road is kind of just tougher there. 5, I have Iowa State, and that would be the one maybe I would kind of flip around, but being at home helps. But Iowa State's a team that forced a ton of turnover, have pressure, has length, like teams that have given Purdue trouble in the past.
So who would you switch with Iowa State at this point?
At Wisconsin would be in consideration for sure. I guess that's really the only game. At USC, maybe. Just no, I wouldn't put I wouldn't put it above Iowa State. So yeah, at Wisconsin would be kind of probably be the only one I would consider.
Okay. As I looked at mine, I maybe took a little bit different approach. And part of it for me is just like historically, where do we struggle? Like against what teams, against what places? And I had talked earlier about the fact that like getting UCLA in that second game on that West Coast trip after they've been out there and had a chance to settle down was, again, I think another really nice break in their schedule. But I am with you on the number 1 toughest matchup. I did a little Twitter thread the other day where we did a little Ask Me Anything. Somebody brought that up in the comments. Thank you for your comments about enjoying those. But I had 3 Big Ten games at that point in time that worried me the most. And that was UCLA, Wisconsin, Ohio State. The more I thought about it when they're going to play Illinois, even though it's a home game coming off of that West Coast trip, I threw Illinois in there as well. That's the only home game that I have listed. I honestly think Purdue goes undefeated at home. And years where they're this good, they just so rarely lose at home. It's been only 2 years ago since they went undefeated at home. So I'm going UCLA at number 1 a lot because of the West Coast trip, the way Cronin likes to play, and the potential matchups that are going to be there. Wisconsin, because to me, going to the Kohl Center is always going to be tough. I think their guard room is really, really good. I just hate the timing. I would not pick Illinois home game to be one of the tougher games, honestly. I just hate the timing of it. I hate when Purdue plays them at home. So to me, they're on this list. And then I don't think Texas Tech has the depth to match Purdue. But that team, those 2 guys to me are just stars. I think Toppin is second, right, in the National Player of the Year betting odds. And either one of those guys, to me, Toppin or Anderson, could just go off and control the game and potentially beat Purdue in that matchup.
Yeah, I'm going to add, I just blanked on Illinois. Illinois would also be in consideration for that 5th spot over Iowa State. If things hit for Illinois, I think it's probably a tougher matchup for Purdue. Is they're going to have size, they're going to be able to stretch the floor. So that's I would throw them at least in that consideration for the 5th spot.
All right. And one of the other things that we talked about coming into the show is just which one of these games all year, as a fan of basketball, are you most excited to watch?
I don't actually remember what I told you because when I prepped for this,
hold on.
But
there we go.
Okay, so I said Michigan because it was between Michigan or at UCLA. Those are the 2 games I am most excited for. I would put Michigan just because I'm very, very high in what their defense could be. Yaxel is just fun to watch, but I think I really think this could be an elite defense. And so you get, Purdue versus Michigan. Unfortunately, it's a Tuesday night, but still, Purdue versus Michigan, potentially number 1 offense versus probably number 2 defense. I don't know if they'll be able to eclipse Houston, but that's just going to be fun. I think the 2 best teams in the conference, arguably to me 2 top 5 teams in the country, like that just should be a fun matchup in Mackey Arena.
Yeah, and I'm going with Texas Tech because I love star power. I love seeing star power. I know Michigan's got Yaxel, but I think what those 2 guys specifically on Texas Tech can do, I just think it's going to be really fun to watch that battle of TK and Toppin and then Braden and Christian. And I'm excited for it. Also, I'm just excited that I'm going to be in the Bahamas when I'm watching that game. And as soon as the game's over or before the game, I can be sitting poolside or out on a beach with a cold beverage in my hand and then go watch some college basketball. And my daughter's going on that trip with me. So it's going to be a fun time. Trap games, looking at the schedule. So this would be a team that Purdue should relatively easily handle, but timing schedule-wise, coming off of big games, whatever it might be, any trap game in there that you look at and you're like, I could see that sneaking up and getting them.
I think the at Nebraska, at Iowa stretch, I
Okay.
wouldn't be shocked to drop one of those two. I'm also higher on those two teams, a little bit higher than, not like crazy high, but I'm higher than kind of consensus, I think, on both of. I'm higher than consensus on Nebraska for sure. Iowa's been a very wide range, so I'm somewhere in there of I think they're going to be pretty good. You get both of those road games back to back, and that's kind of the last of the 6 of 8 road games, or those two back to back right there. So those two games in particular, kind of. Plus, at Nebraska is just always tough. We'll see what the environment is at Iowa this year, with maybe getting some new energy kind of in there. Bennett Sturts is an issue. He just is going to be an issue because of how good he is. So I would say those two in particular kind of really stand out as like, all right, Purdue is the better team, but you got to be able to just kind of go in and handle business and do what you got to do.
And Nebraska got their point center back, so that should be fun to watch, because he was incredibly fun to watch the year before, prior to getting injured, kind of running point center out there. I'm going to stick with Ohio State. I think coming off of that 3-game stretch, Michigan, Indiana, Michigan State, coming off 3 home games, 3 big-time games, and then going to Columbus, I'm going to stick with that as being a trap game in terms of a team that Purdue should easily handle. But still have to take care of business. Go ahead.
Just kind of thinking through and how, Braden and TKR and them are wired. I think that Purdue Ohio State game would either be like Ohio State wins by a couple or Purdue just wins by like 20. Like like Braden and TKR are just like, we're not losing to you again. Like one of those two.
Yep. All right. We do want to keep moving. We want to make sure we have this. We are wrapped up right around an hour because Joe has another show or something else he's got to do at 8 o'clock. Big Ten question for you, though, real quick. What team in the Big Ten do you think maybe is the biggest wild card that we know the least about, that might have the largest swing in terms of could be really, really good and compete against Purdue to win the Big Ten, or might finish 8th, 9th, or 10th in the Big Ten?
I think it's Illinois for that. Like, I think their ceiling is a Final Four team. And if things don't work, it's probably, I still think they're an upper half Big Ten team if things don't really work. Like, I think there's just enough talents, and I think Brad Underwood is a good coach, but they're a team that is a little bit like out of that top 4 or 5. I think they have, they do by kind of just how I did my ranking thing. Like, they have the widest range of outcomes. Where they wouldn't shock me either way.
All right. And is your ranking in that packet that you sold, or is that just available? And
no, my ranking is just, I haven't put it out yet.
Oh, okay.
Because I wanted my packet to be more just pure info.
Yeah.
Like just breakdowns of every single player minus one. Waylon committed to Oregon after I had already put it out. So what am I going to do about that?
Got to do it all over again, Joe. Do it all over again.
Start it all over.
All right. So that kind of wraps up our look at the season. Obviously going to be really exciting. Tons of games in there. With the AP rankings coming out, 9 of the 31 teams that Purdue will face this season are currently ranked. So almost a third of their slate will be against ranked teams, not shying away from the big time competition in the non-conference, and then plenty of teams that are ranked by the AP anyway in the top 25 in the Big Ten as well. Joe, let's turn the focus back a little bit towards the team, because this is probably the last time we'll talk before that first exhibition game. So it's
unless we did a post fan day thing, I guess.
Yeah, we could. But just in case we don't, I'm going to make you commit right now. And we'll revisit it after the fan day, because after we see the scrimmage, our thoughts may change. Final guess on your starting 5 for Purdue.
Braden, Fletch, TKR, Clough.
Okay, that was hard. That was hard.
Yeah. And then a combo guard that can defend and can shoot. That's what I'm going to go with. I don't know. It changes every 5 minutes. Like, I was on Meyer for a while, then it was Jakari. West it was wild card, but it probably, I'll go CJ, just of like CJ's good at basketball. And also like it was his spot last year. It might just be kind of his, especially to start the season. I think there's a scenario where he isn't starting by the end of the year, but again, it's a good problem to have. I'll go CJ. It literally might change by the time we talk next.
Yeah. I'm going with CJ too. At this point, I know I put out the other day that I have no idea after that practice which one that I thought was going to start. But I think to a lot of the things you said, when it's like, well, who knows? And you listen to, if you're listening or reading from the other Purdue, people that cover Purdue basketball, which I highly encourage you to do. Brian Newbert's the GOAT, Casey Bartley, Sam King, Dustin Schutte, all these other guys that are doing great coverage. I'm sure I'm missing several of them. There's no like consensus amongst them. A, from watching with our own eyes, and B, from hearing things from different people. And to me, if there's no consensus, it's probably going to be the guy that started last year until proven otherwise. With that said, did hear that CJ just completely went off in one of the scrimmage sessions the other day, and just went on one of his like Alabama type runs where he was just burying shot after shot after shot. So I think things look like they're leaning that way. Like you and I said earlier, don't know that it matters. Like any of the 4, I'm good. I'm good with it.
I think I could see. I think I would see CJ starting. I don't know if he'll be the consistent closer. I think that might rotate more. And as I kind of think through this more, just this on the fly, like CJ starting makes sense because of that ability to just like, he could have more so than definitely Jakari and West. He has the ability to just be a guy that can go get you 15 right on any random nights. I don't think he's going to average I think he'll average in that 6 to 8 range, probably like somewhere around last year. But I do think like if this is, and I'm talking on the margins here. Like this is, I think CJ is also very good at these things. Like I like Jakari's defense a little bit better, and probably Wes. Again, I think they're all very good in that area. So it's like, and you look at what Purdue needs from that spot, it is defense and just kind of the ability to simply handle the ball and connect. Like Jakari and West and Meyer potentially kind of fit that a little bit better, but also at the same time, like it's. I know I'm a little bit rambling right now, but like it's such a fun and unique problem to have that all 4 of them like can in theory give you everything you need, but they all do it in just a little bit different flavor. Like, right, Meyer is more of the pure offensive guy that can run, like he's a guy that they can run pick and roll for. CJ is somebody that can just get scorching hot and drop 15 plus on any given night while giving good defense. Jakari to me is, a little bit more defensive, but has shown late in the season he can knock down a 3, a little bit driving, and West is kind of the wild card with maybe the highest defensive upside, and also just like has a high ceiling offensively. So it's a very good problem to have, and like any guess to me feels as good as any other.
Yeah, and they all like excel at something just a little bit different from each other, and maybe have slightly different areas in their game that they need to improve. I do think too, it's really, really important as we think about this 5th starting spot is, and we've heard Painter talk about this, playing around Zach or playing with Braden. It's not about if you would just go individual, who the best guy is. It's about who complements Braden and TKR, like who complements those other 4 guys that are going to start the best, right?
Yeah.
So I don't like, it's not even a question of like who's the best player. It's who's complements given what's on the court from what those guys can do at a very high level and where they may need some deficiencies covered up.
Because like this, realistically, the 2 spot for Purdue is the 5th option offensively. Like, it's an incredibly good 5th option. Like, maybe probably the best. No, not probably. Like the best 5th option in the country. I would be pretty confident saying that, regardless of who it is, at least. But like that's Braden and TKR are gonna have high usage. Fletch is gonna be Fletch and get his looks. And then you expect Clufford and Jacobson to be involved in some capacity. Like they're gonna be 4th, 5th man. So right, like I think you nailed it there. It is a lot of just who fits the role best, and maybe that does mean like Jakari or West start because CJ's a little bit more of a self-creator, and so now you run him in off the bench, or maybe he starts. I don't know. It's we could do another show tomorrow, and I would say completely different things about who I think is going to start. I don't know.
Either way, very, very deep backcourt, and I think Sleepers put out a video today. Shout out to Greg and to Carter, ranking Purdue's backcourt as the number 1 in the country, and a lot of that was like, Jakari or Omer might be like the 5th man in that guard room. And like, how could they? You have a guard as good as Braden, a guard as good as Fletch, and then that's your 5th option. Like, how is that not the deepest backcourt in the country? All right. The other question, last chance here, Joe. Who wins the backup 4 minutes in the?
I'm sticking with Jack Benner. I think, like, unless Liam Murphy is just like lights out from 3, which is possible, he's shown he can do it. If not, like, I think Benner gives you a little bit of the better connecting skills, probably a little bit better defender than Murphy to me. Even if he'll be a little bit more undersized. Like if I think it ends up just being one of those 2 guys plays and the other doesn't, like I think it's Benner to me.
Yeah, and Murphy has been lights out shooting every single practice that I've been to where he's shot. I'm just with you, and Joe and I did not talk about this before the show in terms of what our final answers were going to be. But like Benner is such a good passer in that spot too.
Yeah,
I mean, just really good facilitator. From what I've seen in practice, like it's razor thin in terms of which one of those is a better 3-point shooter. But I think he can, go off the bounce a little bit more. I think what he can do from a passing and facilitating standpoint, I think he just brings you a little bit more added value. Now, I can see a world, right, where Murphy still ends up getting minutes, right, because Purdue just needs a shot in the arm, and that guy has proven that he doesn't need volume to warm up to hit threes. And it's like, hey, Liam, we're struggling. Like, we're struggling this game, buddy. Get out there and just fire away. Just fire away.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a specialist coming off the bench in certain situations to just drill some threes. So I don't know. We'll see. You and I guess, are in agreement on those 2. Trying to keep on track to finish up right around an hour. We've got some starred comments from the fans in the chat. Are you wearing current? Okay, never mind. All right. So Jason Depew says, is it on the Feed the Post channel? I think he's talking about your packet.
You can find a link. You can find a link either on my Twitter at JoeJacksonCBB or through my Substack, Feed the Post. If you are a paid member to my Substack already, you can get a discount on the preview itself as well. So those are the 2 places that you can find it.
Yeah, and if you're joining the show a little bit late, we talked earlier about that preview being the most comprehensive Big Ten preview you could possibly get. It will be the best $10 you've spent if you are a huge college basketball fan and just want to know a little bit about all the teams Purdue is going to play in the Big Ten. Rickus Mortis?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Kraig, for doing the AMA on Twitter. You're the best for that. I appreciate that. I was getting a little bored, needed some basketball talk in my life, hadn't gotten it recently. So I did a couple AMAs, a couple weeks in a row where I just answered whatever anybody wanted to throw at me. So thank you. Depew, Craig wants to know your 3 road losses. I already went over these. UCLA, Wisconsin, and Ohio State were the 3 that jumped out to me that scared me the most. John Bomba. Can Omer play off bench behind Fletch and Smith? Is he that versatile? Still not a lot of minutes, but Jakari and Cox seem so solid at the 2. I'll let you take this one, Joe.
Yeah, I think he definitely can. And he can be a guy that can come in. If we're hoping Braden plays less than 35 a game, like Meyer's going to get those, whatever those minutes are where Smith is off the floor. He also, like, I'm very comfortable with him being an off-ball player and being a 2 guard of this kind of connector. Like, there's for what I think it was U18 when he played with was it Ben Seraph, I believe, where Meyer was more. He was in a similar spot to what he is going to be with Braden, where he can handle the ball and run, but he also played a lot off ball. So I think he can fit in well. I think the biggest question will be, can he play with Smith and Fletch? Like, is the defense good enough from him that he can play with both? Or is he going to have to be more paired with one of the other 3 kind of combo guards? And again, a good problem to have.
Yeah, 100%. And I in my head, I like Meyer being on the court when one of Fletch or Braden is off, like as the bulk minutes, and then obviously some time where all 3 of them are going to be on there. But see what that looks like when the season starts and when the exhibition play gets rolling. Seems like everyone on the team wants to play 40 minutes a game. Does that speak more to the depth of the team this year, more so than last year? This is something that I've heard come up from some other guys talking about Purdue basketball. Like, well, if nobody can say definitively who should be starting at the 2, is it really that they're that deep, or is it just a matter of none of them have stepped up and none of them have grown in their game? To me, it's a depth of quality, that there is a ton of depth of quality there. But Joe, I'll let you jump in on this too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just kind of, if to me, it points to the mindset of this team. Like, and it's something I've been really happy to see. Like, they are not shying away. It is obviously they want to win the Big Ten and all that stuff. Like, but it is not even Final Four. Like, it is national championship. Like, that is the goal. And I think that's kind of a testament to that, where it's like you have a bunch of players who can be a part of that and have significant roles, and they want to be competitive and play hard. So I think that, to me, that's kind of what that points to more than anything.
Yep. SLK Boiler, consistent listener. Glad you're tuned in today. Ask, how is IU this year? That is Joe's realm. You have dug into the other teams more than I have.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be an interesting squad. DeVries comes in as the new head coach, brings in Tucker with him, his son. Tucker was very good at Drake. He had his season cut short last year, West Virginia, but was, and then 8-game sample size, was truly an insane shooter. It's going to be a different IU squad. They're going to get up a bunch of threes. They have a lot more skill. It is largely a mid-major, like, all-star roster of, that's kind of who they went out and got, is a lot of guys who've played at mid-major levels. Offense should be good. Defense is going to be a big question mark, especially kind of the interior defense. They don't really have proven interior defense. As for me, as somebody who just, like, right, I cover the Big Ten and all that, like, they're going to be just so much more fun to watch. And they should be, like, they feel bubble-ish on terms of where they kind of end up in March, where, right, they could be a team that gets in. I could see them being a team that just is on the outside looking in, mainly because of the defense.
Well, if we go to 76 teams, they'll definitely get in. Not that that's going to happen this year, but Jeff, how about the mention from Halliburton? Always happy when this program gets recognition, especially from a pro player. Yeah, that was really cool to see. Iowa State plays at Purdue this year. Halliburton, I assume Halliburton's going to be traveling with the Pacers, but also I don't know how much he'll travel on the road with them since he's trying to come back from injury. I would not be shocked if he showed up in Mackey. Would you? For that game? His alma mater? Playing 60 miles up the road?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to look at the Pacers schedule, but it wouldn't be shocking. Like, he's a guy that likes hoops. Like, he'll go.
Yeah.
He'll go watch hoops. So I'm going to look up the Pacers schedule while you kind of continue with that.
Yeah, I don't care if he's there rooting for Iowa State or not. I think it would just be cool to see Halliburton sitting in those first few rows somewhere at a Purdue basketball game. And it's just going to drive more attention, right? If Halliburton's sitting in those stands, regardless of why he's there. So always cool to see 100%. Did you find it?
They play at Chicago on the 5th, the day before. So, and then they don't play till the 8th. So it's possible.
Stop off on the way through. Yeah.
Well, they
Jason
probably fly back.
Yeah, that's true. Jason DePew, hashtag no red shirts 25-26 campaign. I am with you here of like push all the stinking chips in. There might be one spot where I just say I don't see a path this year for minutes. I could be wrong, but battling back from injury. But outside of that, I'm with you. Push all the chips in. Go get a natty.
Yeah, I think that's where I lean. Like Burgess, I think could make sense, especially like you said, depending on how he recovers, kind of coming back from injury and all that. But if it's up to me and I'm not in charge of a program and don't have to think about the team in 4 years, yeah, West shouldn't redshirt because you just want to have every option available.
Yeah, I think you started this one.
Oh, I didn't know what he meant by that. That's just.
I think he's talking about the gaps in between the podcasts, the Boilers in the Stands podcast. I think that's what he means, that you're always leaving us and it's a few weeks before I come back. But I've been busy moving too, so don't put this all on Joe. I had a real busy stretch as well where it made it more difficult. He also chimed in and said it's just hard for me not to see Meyer starting by season's end. Meyer is a dude. Agree that Meyer is a dude. I think the starting spot, the 5th starting spot, is all going to be about who best complements and who the best fit is around, especially the big three, TK, Fletcher, and Braden. And that complementary piece, I'm going to have to say that if he's starting, that means he's proven that he can be a plus perimeter defender and can match the defensive effort of a couple of the other guards that are in that guard room. And it's also going to mean that he has proven that he can shoot on lower volume because he's used to shooting those efficiency clips that he does off of high volume. And now he's coming into a situation where Braden, Fletch, and TK they're going to get theirs, right? You look at CJ's attempts per game last year. Can you pull that up real quick, Joe? But
yeah, I can.
And I'm not saying it'll be exact, right? That 5th spot equals 5th spot. But now you bring in a starting center who's going to demand some shots too, right? More so than maybe what Caleb First did last year. So I'm guessing you got it.
Yeah, CJ was 4.2 attempts per game.
All right, 4.2 attempts per game. I could see Meyer maybe being 5-6 attempts a game.
Colvin was 5.2.
Right. So that's a really big difference compared to what he's used to shooting in FIBA. 12 to 15 shots a game, something like that. In that range, he's got to prove, right? Painter talks about this all the time, that it's much, much harder for guys to shoot efficiently on lower volume. So to me, if he's starting, he's proven that he can do those two things and adjust to those two things.
Yeah, and I also don't think if he doesn't start to begin the year, I don't think it's crazy. I think there's a scenario where if Purdue is just rolling, Painter might not just change the starting 5 and Meyer may not start, but he might still play 20, 25 minutes a game and be the closer too. Like if Purdue starts 13-0 or something, like Painter's probably not going to change the starting lineup, even if at that point Meyer is ready to be a starter. Even if he isn't from day one, he could just be a starter day one. Who knows?
Could be. Jason DePew says, thanks for the show. As always, guys, with a $1.99 super chat. If you're new to the show, you can click on the super chat, contribute as little or as much as you want. And those comments automatically get read on air. Blake says, question, Painter said in the big media day that Braden won't sit anymore this year. Y'all think that is a good idea? I'd like him to, I'm assuming saying sit any more than he did last year. I'd like him to play 33 to 34 minutes, but not 37.
Yeah, I mean, I go back and forth where it's like, do you really want to take arguably the best player in the country off the floor if he can play? Like, no. But also, this goal is national championship, so you do want to save like 35 minutes to me feels right. Of like, sit him right. He probably sits roughly 3 minutes in the first half and then get him like a 2 minute stretch with like 12 13 minutes left in the second half and kind of let him go from there. Like, that feels like the right number to me. His conditioning is so good. Like, he's not a guy I'm super worried about. He also probably is going to shoot a little less this year, I would guess, just with more options around him maybe. So you also have more guys this year that can kind of help him take those plays off where, right, Meyer especially can be a guy if he's in with Braden. Hey, Meyer, you run the show for this play. Like, not that Braden's taking a play off, but can kind of more sit in a corner or whatever and just get his breath a little bit. Like, I think there are different ways like that, even more so this year. CJ Jakari being a part of that as well, where they can kind of just find him different rests in different ways. I don't know. There's a lot. There really, I think it's a more complex thing than just like he should sit because right, championship is the goal, and I think if you ask Braden and Painter that is the goal. Braden's also chasing an all-time assist record. Like, there are just different things like that. Like, he's chasing National Player of the Year, and I don't think Painter is going to go out of his way to like force feed those things to Braden. But at the same time, might be a couple minutes here and there extra. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting thing to see how Painter balances it all.
Yeah, and you really need Meyer or one of the other two guys to show that they can come in and play that point guard spot without there being a significant drop off before we can really think about, well, he should have less minutes on the court. I think, I've said all year, kind of like, I don't think there's any way he's ever goes lower than 35 minutes a game. I think the path to 35 minutes a game might have a lot to do with the fact that Purdue just destroys some teams or puts some teams away by large margins, and he gets sent to the bench a little bit earlier than he might. But I think 35 minutes potentially could see, but I don't think it's going to be much lower than that. Joe, before we close the show, I had it on my list, and somehow I just looked over it. 31 games in the regular season. How many losses does Purdue finish with? Best prediction.
2, 4.
This is why we're partners, Joe.
5.
Oh, okay. Had to be different. No, I'm just kidding. I identified 3 games earlier when I was looking at it, and then I just assumed like one of those like non-conference neutral site type games or away games where we're playing Alabama away would probably jump up and bite Purdue as well. I'm going 4 games, so I'm going 27-4. Everybody remember this, okay? I'm going 27-4. Joe is going 26-5. We'll see which one of us gets closer at the end of the year. Jason Depew says 30-1. I'm glad nobody's being crazy enough to say undefeated. That's just does not happen in this modern era of college basketball.
Yeah,
take us home, Joe.
They're going. Yeah, they're going to get a couple losses along the way. I'm sure the Purdue fan base will react in a very normal manner, and the world will not be ending when that first loss comes. But regardless, win or loss, we'll be here after every single game with a live post-game show breaking down the game. We're a couple weeks away from that. I mean, our first one will be presumably next Friday after the Kentucky exhibition. We'll be at Fan Day. Be on the lookout for some content stemming from that, whether it just be pictures and videos from Fan Day, maybe a show. We'll kind of just see how everything works out there. But yeah, we're right back to it. 22 days away from first official regular season game on November 4th in Mackey Arena. A very fun time. You can follow me on Twitter, Joe Jackson CBB. Follow Kraig on Twitter at Kraig Bowers 34, and follow Boilers in the Stands on Twitter at Boilers in Stands. Between all 3 of those, definitely will have some Fan Day content and some stuff from the scrimmage there. So appreciate everybody tuning in, and whether it be after fan day or just sometime after the exhibition, we will catch you all when that does happen.